Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Caithness Amateur Dram Antique Society tasting. I've been doing a series of tastings in which I'm looking at Lost Distillery bottlings, and tonight I'm going to look at the Lost Distillery of Kinclaith. And I've got a miniature of Kinclaith, Gordon MacPhail's Connoisseurs Choice Kinclaith, 16-year-old, from 1966, so bottled in 1982, and it's a 40% ABV. So Kinclaith Distillery, before its demolition, was the oldest malt whisky distillery in Glasgow. And it didn't really match the traditional image of a malt whisky distillery because it existed within the Speyside grain whisky complex. Even though it was tucked away relatively out of sight, Kinclaith was the largest malt whisky distillery in Glasgow, Scotland's largest city. And the Speyside complex was founded in 1927, and Kinclaith Distillery itself was established in 1957. Long John International Limited, who also owned the Strath's Spey complex, or rather the Strath Clyde complex, founded the distillery. In 1975, Whitbread bought the distillery, and the equipment used in the production of Kinclaith single malt was dismantled. The site now belongs to Pernod Ricard and is still producing grain whisky to this day as Strathclyde Distillery. For Kinclaith, the water used in the production was drawn from Loch Katrine. The production capacity isn't known, although as the distillery functioned only with one wash and one spirit still, experts estimate that the production capacity must have been at or around 200,000 litres a year. So they had one wash still and one spirit still. And there's a lack of information concerning the size and the shape of the Kinclaith pot stills. What we do know, however, is that the pot stills most probably had a traditional Speyside shape with wide spherical lids and a tall conical neck. They sourced malt from an industrial source in Glasgow, which produces about 40 million litres of alcohol a year, or rather, the Strathclyde grain distillery produces around 40 million litres of alcohol a year. The malts used for Kinclaith were unpeated. It's not certain where the casks of Kinclaith were warehoused, but they would have been somewhere in Glasgow, and the spirit was aged in a combination of sherry and American and European oak casks. The sherry casks were met with great critical acclaim. Bottlings of Kinclaith are extremely rare. Due to their rareness, the prices of the bottlings have continued to soar since the distillery's closure in 1975, with bottles now collecting prices between £1,500 and £4,000 each. And the scarcity is made even more intense by the fact that Kinclaith never actually released an official bottling. Signatory Vintage and Gordon MacPhail have performed independent bottlings from the site, and many of these were independent bottlings of the mid to late 60s, like this one, 1966. So it hadn't really been a distillery by itself, Kinclaith. The malt whisky distillery was part of the Strathclyde grain whisky complex. So tonight I've got this miniature of Gordon MacPhail Connoisseurs Choice Kinclaith 16-year-old from 1966. And bottled at a strength of 40% ABV in 1982. So let's see what we have here. It's a nice gold colour. I wonder if there's peroxide been added to this. Gordon MacPhail, I don't know. It's got a lovely tide line and nice sticky tears. There's the tide line there. And it's rather amazing how this is spirity at only 40% ABV. And there's some rather huge notes of plum spirit, slivovitz, and even sort of fruit brandy, eau de vie. Then you get apple pie and shortbread and praline, caramel and chicory. Then it gets rather buttery and vanillid. And there's a good oakiness to this. It's a very pleasant nose. Dried grapes, baked apples, calvados, roasted malt, salted caramel and some mints. It's not complex and it's not terribly concentrated. There's a touch of cardboard in the background, but it's open, moist, almost like processed wood, grain, nuts, and it's a little solventy, like a carpenter's workshop. And there's fruit and herbal notes, green apples, salted bacon, wool, and there's honey, caramel shades. It's a touch peppery. You know, cooked apples, butterscotch, fresh pastry, hot croissant. And then it gets quite grassy. And there's some nice hot butter notes. Try them out. And it's quite punchy again, considering the low strength. There's some salt and fudge, salted caramel. Butter and herbal tea notes. It's very interesting, it's very different. Notes of cooked spinach, licorice, burnt cake, coffee liqueur, roasted pecan nuts. It's quite malty with a salty tang, salty. Leather, peanut butter, dried fruits, and there's maybe some sherry in there. Very quaffable, saturated, dense sweet wood with that peppery wave, lemon rind, orange, and some lacquer notes, resin, and burnt caramel. The finish is medium, toffee, calvados, apples, and some bitter touch. Spicy lemon pepper, lemon peel, grapefruit crust, apple seeds, and black coffee. Back in the day, well, I'm going to add some water to this first, and then I'll explain what I was going to say. I'm going to add add a ml to this. So yeah, back in the day, I used to attend Sunday school from a young age, and we would have Sunday school teachers, and some of the men were quite elderly and wore long overcoats, and they wore dark suits, and there was a smell of musty smell and mothballs, and I'm getting that from this whiskey a bit. Musty and mothballs, as if it's been away in a cupboard for some time. So water, you get grass, hay, and a bit of sherry at first. Does attack the nose, this one. And it's some kind of shoe polish. These Sunday school teachers also had very shiny shoes. Coffee, chalk, raisins, and sherry, sweets. Again, it's dusty and malty and yeasty. And there's some flowery notes. Peaches at the background. And it's a little metallic as well, but that might be the old bottle effect, and that may be what's giving it the musty, dusty, mothbally effect. Try them out. And the dusty, musty feeling is a little in the background now. It gets creamy mouthfeel. And there's more licorice, gingery, and delicate oak. Citrus fruit, or melon, cinnamon, licorice, vanilla. It's quite smooth. It's got a lot of depth. And the finish is medium long and soft. Bitter sweetness and dryness, and a slightly spicing of white pepper. This is more of a rarity than a real stunner. It's not bad at all. It's overall balanced. It's a very interesting Lowlander. And not only because it's a rarity, I wouldn't try another of the same bottling. But yeah, an interesting experiment or an interesting discovery and look at history.